You like movies?
Yeah, I like movies.
So do the boys on We Doing Filmographies.
What is...
As they crank out episodes on rad actors they like, you can discover that Ray Liotta's first role has him doing a bad thing with a hose.
Are you talking to me, though?
Or how in Ding-a-Ling List, Robert Longstreet donates his penis to his penisless best friend.
Kind of feel like you're doing...
Does that sound pretty cool?
Yeah.
Not as cool as Brad Pitt seeing his reflection for the first time and saying he looks like Mother.
Okay, I don't know what...
Tune in to We Doing Filmographies podcast on all podcast platforms and listen to Jason and Jules wade through garbage, gold, and boredom one movie at a time.
Wait, us?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's we doing filmographies.
I don't know where my Genesis could be. I haven't seen my Super Nintendo since 2003. That's alright. I don't mind. I've got a Switch in the old switcheroo. My friend Mike and Jaymo too.
All right, everyone, welcome to the machine, or as we're calling it, the old switcheroo, where we're talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jaymo. Join us on our epic quest to research and review all 200 plus games in the Nintendo Switch Online Retro Catalog. Today, we will be our way through Ecco the Dolphin on the Sega Genesis in an episode that we are calling Glorious Porpoise. Now, Mike, listen, I know I've gotten away with some pretty questionable titles in the past, but I don't think I'm going to get away with this one because this time you brought backup, right? Would you like to introduce her?
Yeah, so this time we have my friend Cori, who is coming on number one because she said she would, and I cannot describe how useful that is. And number two, because she actually has a bit of at least past ambitions with dolphins from school, if she'd like to talk about those goals.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. So I went to school with the hopes of being able to study dolphin language, and had always wanted to work with dolphins when I was a kid, and took a long time to try to figure out what I wanted to do with them. And then I found this program where they were trying to decode dolphin language, and was just fascinated by it. I always liked the learning languages and stuff like that, and so went ahead to pursue that, and wanted to get my PhD. But the year I graduated getting my bachelor's, the last dolphin in their program passed away. They closed the program, the main professor retired, and here I am 20 years later and still hoping somebody is continuing that research, but you have to be a current student to be able to do it. So it's been, I'm just very patient and hoping that maybe one day I actually get to do it. But in the meantime, I, just kind of do my thing.
That's amazing.
What were you studying as the precursor to hopefully a PhD in dolphin languages?
Can't believe that exists.
So I went to school at UCSB and got my degree in zoology. The program at the University of Hawaii was actually a psychology degree. And while I was at UCSB, I was attempting to get a minor in linguistics while getting the zoology degree, and hoping that that basis for information would help me analyze what was necessary to do the decoding of the dolphin language.
Was this like a Flipper thing when you were a kid? Do you remember Flipper, the show?
I do remember Flipper, but it was more of a Sequest thing.
Oh, Sequest.
I was very much all about Jonathan Brandis and his dolphin Darwin on the show, and he made a little machine that decoded dolphin language, and I was obsessed.
That's amazing.
I was fortunate enough when I was about 10 to swim with dolphins, and it kind of sparked this passion for dolphins, and I absolutely just knew that was what I wanted to work with, but I didn't know how, and took a while to figure it out, and I'd love to go back to it if I could one day, but
I've always wanted to swim with dolphins, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'd be a little scared. Like, I feel like I've heard enough stories of dolphins being aggressive, or like, I mean, if you've seen the King of the Hill episode where the dolphin like takes liberties with somebody. So like it was
That has happened. Yeah.
wait to you?
Not to me, no.
Oh, okay, okay.
No, I'm saying it has happened before, but
Yes.
when I did it, I mean, it was amazing. I had the choice of swimming with either two trained dolphins or like 8 to 10 wild dolphins. And I was young, so we went with the trained dolphins, and like
Yeah.
we got to feed them, we got to play with them. They said, okay, you're gonna lay out, put your hands out in front of you and your feet behind you, and each dolphin came up to your foot and used their head and pushed you across the water. And it was amazing. And I always loved it. And I was fascinated with dolphins. And then I got to swim with them again when I was, I don't know, maybe like 25 or 26. And it was different because this particular dolphin was pregnant. So it was just like a hang out with it in a pool, not really like swimming, but you got in the water, you got to interact. Pretty cool.
I got one more question before we dive in, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
How often do people make Seinfeld references at you? Like about like, I always wanted to pretend to be a marine biologist.
Never,
Really?
actually.
Oh, wait, hold on. You're talking like you haven't seen the marine biologist episode of Seinfeld.
Have not.
Oh,
No, I don't. I don't Seinfeld.
okay. Well, you Netflix.
Yes.
Okay, so tonight, marine biologist episode, so we can talk about it.
Sounds good.
All right. Shall we dive in, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, so today we are talking about Ecco the Dolphin on the Sega Genesis. Released in 1992. I'm going to read the description from the Nintendo Switch emulator. It says, explore the seas as Ecco the Dolphin in this action-adventure game. After a waterspout takes Ecco's friends, he must meet with ancient whales, learn Atlantean secrets, and transcend both time and space to get them back. I don't know. I kind of like that intro. I feel like as a description, it kind of hints at just enough to get me sort of tantalized, but I think that was pretty cool. We start off with the box art of the game because people's first impression was often seeing the game up on the store shelves. So we'll start with the North American box because that is the one that was released first. And then we got it side by side here with the Japanese box art. Mike, what's your impression based on the artwork displayed for these games?
I'm rather surprised how similar these are. They clearly have been done independently. For both of these, we have the titular Ecco the Dolphin jumping over the ocean with another dolphin in the back jumping,
Right.
and then a shark underneath.
Yeah.
And some fish.
So it's a very similar layout. And the reason for that and why it's so similar is that after the first one was drawn up, the localization producer for the game, Ryoichi Hasegawa, thought that Ecco's appearance on the North American one was too macho and menacing with a musculature and directness that seemed to state, I eat meat. So they deliberately softened the look and redrew it for the Japanese release. And also the game, when it was released in Japan, was easier. Having received a lot of negative feedback about the difficulty, they lowered the amount of damage you take and they increased the amount of times you can find error. So since the game itself was more kid-friendly, they decided to go with the more kidly-friendly imagery on the other side. But which one do you all prefer, Cori? Which one, if you had to pick, do you think is better? Because I have a soft spot for both.
I mean, there's definitely nostalgia in the one on the left.
Yeah, the North American.
Yeah, because that's the one that I had. I like the look of, as an adult, I like the look of the one on the right, but I think because I like dolphins so much, I see more dolphin on the one on the left. So if I were just shopping based on the way it looks, I'd pick the one on the left.
When you say see more dolphin, do you mean it seems more dolphin-like or just straight up it's bigger?
No, 2/3 of the page has dolphin on it. So if I were walking past it on a shelf and had to pull it off of a shelf, like in the olden days where they were there, I would grab the one on the left before I would grab the one on the right because I wouldn't see the dolphins nearly as much.
You get more dolphin for your buck on the left-hand side.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
this game was published by Sega and it was developed by Nova Trade International, which were also the creators of Garfield's Pot in the Act, which I think was a Lund game. Mike, didn't you guys own this one?
I don't.
Could have sworn. There's only a few games you had that I didn't, and I would seethe with jealousy. I thought Garfield was one of them. And then they also produced Colibri, which is arguably the finest hummingbird-based shooter available for the 32X. Um, like, do you get my reference? You don't.
No.
Okay. A Penny Arcade reference.
Okay.
For years back in the early 2000s, they made jokes about Colibri and how it was arguably the finest hummingbird-based shooter available for the 32X. It's like, how niche can you get?
You
Corey,
should have
so
just
you
owned that
said,
as your own cleverness.
yeah, nah. I mean, I like to explain my Mike jokes. Corey, you said that you liked the original Echo North American box art, so you played this game
Yeah.
as a kid. What
Yes.
did you ever have a 32X and came in across Colibri?
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
It was a system that plugged into the Genesis and
I
made
don't
it.
think so.
It didn't
No.
sell well. Nobody
No,
had it.
I don't think I did. I mean, I have to be honest, I was always the watcher of the games. So this
Oh.
game was this was my first game that I picked for myself.
Oh.
So I definitely have a soft spot for it. So whatever the system was, it always belonged to one of my siblings because they were more the gamers, and I was the one that would sit there and be like, "Oh, there's something up in the left. Go look at that." So I was the like,
Man in the chair.
yeah, I was the hype girl.
Oh, I love that Echo has that special meaning for you.
Yeah, I do. I love it. I
This
was
was
so
Corey's
excited
first game.
when yeah. I mean, it's not the first game I ever played, but it was the first one that I ever picked for myself.
Yeah.
Before we go on to that, I wanted to make a comment about the cover art.
Yeah.
I was reading Wikipedia, and you see the dots on its head? That's a constellation.
Yes, we're gonna get to that. I was gonna ask Mike, since Mr. Starman over here, if Mike knows.
If it's a constellation, I'm going to presume that this was not terribly complicated and that this is Dolphinius, the dolphin.
Yeah, I didn't know that, so I thought that was kind of cool that I looked at that now, and I never realized that. I always thought it was water droplets.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew it was stars, but I never connected that they would have meaning like that. But also, it's cool because it like thematically ties Echo to space and outer space, and I
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know. We'll get into the Joy Pros, what we like, but I feel like this game actually has a lot going on, and it's kind of neat with its depth. Mike, did you want to talk about the manual? Because some of my trivia was about the end of the manual. Did you happen to explore it?
I mean, so I went through the manual. This has a whole lot of first of all, it has a lot of information about what's supposed to go on this game that I did not actually find particularly helpful.
Meaning, like example?
Meaning that I went through all of that and still felt woefully unprepared for what the heck I was supposed to be doing.
Oh, yes.
However, this also does a whole lot of dolphin related material in terms of just a lot of general information about dolphins. And of course, we've got this whole Jacques Cousteau bit in here.
Yeah, it's a whole passage from The Living Sea, which was Jacques Cousteau. He's a famous oceanographer. And the passage, interestingly, describes dolphins as almost menacing, including passages like, "A nation of dolphins had gone mad before our eyes, leaping into the air in a frenzied victory celebration after some unknown war in the deep." How cool is that? Oh, I got chilled. But, Mike, did you know that this was not the end of Jacques Cousteau's collaboration on this game?
I didn't even know this counted as collaboration. I thought this was just like, hey, can we republish this and go with that?
They printed it with permission. And Jacques Cousteau starred in a hilarious television commercial for the game in which he narrates a captain's log describing his crew losing interest in scuba diving, instead preferring to spend all day and night playing Ecco the Dolphin on the Sega Genesis. I mean, it's amazing.
That makes me love this so much more.
Isn't that great?
It is. That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Did the real man speak English? Because I had the sense it might have been an actor with his voice, but it was really him, like on camera.
I don't know.
I mean, I thought he did because I thought he's somewhat famously like narrated stuff.
Yeah, but he's not. I don't know if English is his first language.
He's French,
right? Well, so anyway, the other inspirations for this game, lead developer Ed Annunziata was heavily inspired by the book The Sounding by Hank Searles, which detailed how dolphins use echolocation for a wide range of uses. Corey, did you ever read this one?
No.
No. Okay. I had a sense it was like a big deal. But additionally, Annunziata regularly played Pink Floyd albums in the office to inspire his team due to the band's signature echoey quality of sound. So it's therefore no coincidence that the game's infamously difficult final level, Welcome to the Machine, has a runtime nearly identical to the rock song from which it got its name. And that's from the album Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. So I thought that was cool. Corey, you said you got to level 5.
Yeah,
Did you get further as a kid?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember aliens being in it?
No, I'm looking at this. I didn't know there were aliens in it now.
Yeah, there's a whole second half of this game that's really wild, and I'm so grateful that I have the ability to rewind and cheat my way to the end of a game.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it gets dark and it gets scary.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was reading just the synopsis of how it was created and the story behind it. I didn't realize the problem with why he lost his family was because of aliens. I didn't know
Right?
that. Like, I'm looking at this now and I'm shocked. Like, I really had no idea. I just thought it was a fun dolphin game. I never
Right.
realized there was this whole other dark side to it.
Oh, I'm so excited to teach you the dark backstory of this game.
Yes.
But what's cool about it though is that it's understandable that you didn't know that because the game does not present its supernatural nature to you
Yeah.
beyond maybe the talking crystals until deep into the game. And the description in Nintendo Switch Online said that your family gets sucked up by a water spout.
Right.
And so you kind of just assume this is like, oh, it's like a force of nature has
Mhm.
separated us. But no, is a force of science fiction, in fact. So yeah, that's super cool.
Pink Floyd connection here is also kind of interesting then, because I know one of the Pink Floyd songs that I think of as slightly more recognizable in terms of like name a Pink Floyd song is called Echoes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and yeah, I think there's a lot of connective tissue as far as theming goes for sure. So we talked already a little bit about the constellation Delphinus. This was Annunziata's originally wanted to name the character after the constellation. Would have been Delphinus the Dolphin. And Sega's director of marketing, Al Nilsson, pushed to change the name to Botticelli the Dolphin. Now, I want Mike's making a face here. Any guesses why Sega's marketing director wanted their animal protagonist to be named after a famous painter in their 90s video game?
I'm going to assume this is them trying to somehow ride Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coattails.
Exactly right.
And I do like that they picked one that Botticelli and Bottlenose start off similar.
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually almost a better name. Might actually be a better name. So yeah, almost Botticelli the Dolphin. Product development director Clyde Grossman suggested Ecco the Dolphin, which lead Annunziata to settle on the spelling ECCO instead of ECHO, both as a tribute to his Italian descent and because it can loosely be translated to IC, which matches the way that dolphins use echolocation. So in Italian, echo means I see, and it's like thematically connected to the controls of that game. Pretty cool, I thought.
That explains why this is spelt weird that I have
Yeah.
been wondering this whole time.
Look at that. Like I'm teaching you something, Mike. And this was all according to the book Playing at the Next Level, A History of American Sega Games by Ken Horowitz. And my last little piece of trivia, just because we've talked about it before, is that Echo had a run in Sonic the Comic. Sonic the Comic was series of comic books. Everyone would have half of the issue be a Sonic the Hedgehog story, and then the second half would be a different Sega property. Corey, did you ever read any of these?
Mm-mm.
I would have devoured these as kids. I'm mad I didn't know they existed.
Yeah, I didn't know they existed either. I totally would have gotten that one if it was there, if I knew it was there.
Hey, Sega, reprint these. We'll pay for them. Like, I would totally buy this if I saw it
Yeah.
sitting in the store.
I like that this is the exact same jumping pose as on the cover. Like it's like
Mhm.
this dolphin can only appear in one precise appearance above water.
Well, and it's funny because I don't know, Corey, did you follow the series? Did you ever play any of its sequels?
Mm-mm.
So it had a sequel on the Sega Genesis, which was also a side-scrolling one, but I think the coolest game was on the Dreamcast, and it was 3D and gorgeous. Like it still looks good to this day. But Corey, this is gonna be great content for an audio podcast. Corey, what's it called when dolphins go up on the surface and they do that? Like, They're like that thing where they like skip across the water and they're not in the water. They're just, you have to know what that's called for all the effort.
I don't. No, I don't. I don't
Do you
know
know
what
that
that's
move?
called. I do know what you're talking. It's like, yeah. How do you describe it?
Track skipping, I guess.
It's what Flipper would do
Yes. Yes.
across
It's the
the
flipper.
water. You know.
Well, so you can do that in the Dreamcast game.
Oh my gosh, that would be fun.
Since seeing these covers, I always wanted to do that because that's what I thought he was kind of doing was, sort of skipping across the water. But so I think part of the reason why this game has a soft spot in our hearts, if I can start with the Joy Pros, beautiful game from
Mhm.
very first frame. Just has these
Yeah.
really deep blue colors, and then later on when you get to the ice caps levels, it has this beautiful lavender sort of color palette to it. Just a great game to look at. Corey, do you agree?
Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. All the different colors of the fish and the background scenery was always really pretty and surprisingly very accurate. I think that was something I liked then, and I appreciate it now, knowing more about dolphins now. I love it.
And it feels accurate. Like when you're playing it, the characters are moving in ways that feel very like animalistic, and the fish scurrying away through the water trying to get away from Echo.
Yeah.
Did you both get to 8 arms? I know you did, Corey, back in the day.
Yes.
Mike, did you get this far?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this was like the 4th level.
Yes. 8 arms is this huge octopus, and you have to swim slowly past him to make it
Mhm.
through safely. But the way that his arm is like each one of his little pieces of his tentacle is its own sprite. So they're able to animate it in this very cool, like kind of
Mhm.
undulating, reaching. And it just made, even though really nothing else on the animal is moving, it felt
Yeah.
very, very cool. Almost got like Disney animatronic vibes.
Yeah.
It may be worth taking a brief moment to figure out how far we each got into this at this point, just so that as we go forward to know which things are new to who.
Mhm.
Okay. So, Mike, you want to start?
So I'll start. So I streamed all the Ecco the Dolphin that I played on Twitch, which was like 4.5 hours of playing this game.
And you didn't get very far.
I did not finish level 5.
Okay.
Mhm.
And at some point I gave up there, in part because I discovered 2 numbers that I found equally disheartening for different reasons. One was
Okay.
online, I looked up how long is this game supposed to be, because it's taking a lot of time, and found out that its average is at 5.5 hours, but that's 24 levels.
Yeah.
And so when I'm like, okay, I can't get past level 5 in 4 hours. If this is supposed to be a 5.5 hour game for people, it's not going to be for me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was that the speedrun record for this is under 20 minutes now,
Wow.
which is somehow its own kind of frustrating.
I want to watch that.
Yeah.
One bit I will say is it turns out you can clip through the side of the left side of the map to get to the right side in several spots.
Huh.
And at some point I tried just to see if I could stumble into how that works, which I couldn't. But I'm like, nothing else is working.
Okay. So you had a hard time with this one.
Yeah. Games Done Quick has done this a couple times.
Yeah.
Their 2014 one does involve a description of the game beforehand, just referring to this as an infuriating game about a dolphin and unrealistic jump mechanics.
Well, jump mechanics, but unlike any other game. Corey, so you said you only got to level 5. So have you beaten this game?
No, I did not beat this game. I think this level with the 8 arms, over 4 hours it took me to complete that one level.
Was it 8 arms that kept getting you, or was it just the oxygen?
No, it depended what happened as the thing, like each obstacle got me. So like I kept dying and having to restart, and I would have loved if this game had, like, as a grown-up playing this, I would have loved to have had checkpoints throughout this game. So like if you were to restart it, you wouldn't have to continue to beat all those obstacles again, or at least start halfway through or something like that. Like if you activated one of the gems, you could start at that gem for the next round and swim. Like you could swim through the whole thing again, and then the next challenges were still there. But the fact that 4.5 hours just restarting from the beginning was, as that person said, infuriating.
Yeah.
But I kept going.
Yeah, so this may be a painful thing to mention to you at this point. So with the Nintendo Switch, there's save states that allow you to save the game at points, and you can also rewind if something goes wrong. So that leads me to ask Jaymo, who uses those, did you beat this game?
Listen, I don't appreciate all that preface with, okay, so just so y'all know, Nintendo Switch enables losers like Jaymo to cheat. So, cheater, did you beat this game? My guy Nintendo did. I beat this game and it felt like an achievement because
Yeah.
with rewinding, with saving wherever I wanted to, it was still really difficult. I think part of this game's problem is that, well, I guess I'll get into it in the Joy-Cons, but I think it's misunderstood as a game, and even as fans. I mean, I played this game as a kid. I didn't take to it like Corey did, but definitely it was sort of hard to resist. It was so unique, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, it seemed enticing, but like I know that as a kid, I never got out of the first level. I believe that Echo the Dolphin was a game that I was exposed to because I think it was one of the ones that, like Burger King had, and it would just be like, oh, start the game of Echo the Dolphin, and I can't figure out how to make the game begin really. 'Cause that first level isn't really like that's not really like a level with like a challenge. It's just like telling the game you're ready to start playing, and that
Mhm.
never worked because I couldn't figure out how to do the whole nonsense double somersault whistling the Star Spangled Banner nonsense kind of trigger it needed to be like,
All right, listen, Grumpy Gus. We're gonna get to the Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
I got a few more things to say about my boy Echo.
yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to cover that's like I played this in the past only in the sense that I held a controller while this game was on, but not in
Okay.
the sense of playing it.
Got you. So, Mike, you didn't get to see some of the beautiful big
Oh, wow.
entrances, right? Isn't that great,
Yeah.
Corey?
I never saw any of this. I never saw the pretty purple.
Well, and so but you got to the first orca, right? The first killer whale. It's in level 1.
Sounds familiar. Not this time around. I think as a child I did.
Okay. Well, so in the first level, there is an orca whale that just talks to you. It's one of the few creatures.
Oh yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah, you
That
remember what
one
I'm
I
talking
did.
about.
Mhm.
It's just like in
Mhm.
an underwater kind of grotto.
Right.
And
Right.
it says like, oh, I'm sorry your family was taken. So for those who haven't played the game, it's a very chilling and memorable first level because the game drops you into this little lagoon and there's little dolphins swimming around, your fellow dolphins. You can eat some fishies, you can jump in and out. There's nothing that can hurt you. And they're just saying things like, oh, the ocean's beautiful. And one of them says, how high can you fly? And so you see them jumping. So you start to jump. And if Echo jumps too high, then all of a sudden the screen flashes white and red and it goes like, cannot use. And you see all these helpless sea creatures getting sucked into the air. And dolphins, Echo is just spinning helplessly. And then he drops back into the water. And now the music is different. And it's brooding and it's slow and you're alone. And like Echo just goes to the next screen, and I was like, "What an intro!" Like it just endeared me to him because it was so scary.
It's like Sharknado ripped off that concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think this
Mhm.
does happen though. Water spouts are a thing that happens out on the
Yes.
open sea, right?
Yes.
Water
they
spouts are
are.
a thing, but the picking up the animals and stuff.
Well, I'm sure some water spouts pick up animals though.
They do, yeah, and some of them drop them in the middle of the street if they're close to a town.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
So, gearing up for the release of this game, the developers sent a copy to the Royal British Marine Life Conservation Society in an attempt to stir up controversy and grab headlines. According to localization producer Ryoichi Hasegawa, they thought that the violence and peril inflicted upon the animals in Echo would upset the environmentalists, but reportedly the game was so beautiful that they felt the title built empathy for sea life, leading the developers at Nova Trade to receive a formal invitation to join the society. How great is that?
Oh, that's an amazing attempt at creating controversy and then just having to go like, no, actually, we think this is great.
Yeah.
There's like a lesson to be learned.
Yeah. I feel like playing this game meant very quickly my empathy for sea life disappeared. Like I swung very anti-sea life at a certain point in this game because it was getting very frustrating.
Is this your
Mhm.
Captain Planet villain origin story?
I feel like I've got to have an earlier one.
Yeah, it must have happened by now. Corey, did you like this game as a kid? Because I can imagine if your siblings were the ones who were the main gamers and this was the first game that was yours, it must have felt a little strange because it's so difficult but really cool to look at. So would they watch you play since this was your game?
I don't remember. I
Okay.
just remember having the game, making my attempts at it, and that was it. I mean, I'm sure they sat while I played, but I don't think I got very far because even looking at this, I don't remember the aliens. I don't never saw the purple whale. I did not get very far in this game at all, even as a child. So I probably, because I wasn't such a gamer, I probably didn't do very much with it. And since the console was not mine, it was like I would play it whenever I had time. So it probably wasn't anything like I had to sit and play with it. I just really liked it. I had fun while I played it, and that was probably as much as I did with it.
To your credit, like when I was trying to figure out how long this game takes, I was finding a lot of like Reddit posts and stuff from people like, I just beat this game for the first time, and half the comments people are like, yeah, I had this as a kid. I never got past like level 3.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fairly normal experience with this game, is to
Mhm.
have only seen maybe the first couple levels.
Yeah.
I think though that Echo is fun to control. Not necessarily easy to control, but I feel like leaping out of the water, it feels fun and thrilling every time.
Mhm.
And there's especially later levels where you have to build momentum to leap from one enclosed body of water to another. So those jumps feel really thrilling and dangerous because like once Echo's out, you don't really know where he's going to land. And usually just blink, you don't make the jump, you bounce back in. But when you do nail it and he's just cresting and diving back in, and I think he builds up speed nicely. I think the way that you can tap to
Mhm.
accelerate and then hold it down so he can start zipping. And so I think that once you know the level layout, you can really carve a fast through line. In fact, you kind of have to make it from one pocket of air to the other.
Mhm.
I'm kind of curious on that with the controls. What did you use as far as the controls for like left, right, up, down? Because I, for the older games, tend to use the 4 buttons.
Yes. So what Mike's talking about is on the Nintendo Switch, when you're holding it in your hand, you have the joystick on the left, but you can also use the diamond of buttons as essentially a D-pad. The Switch turns that into a D-pad. I stuck with joystick for most of it.
Okay.
I do remember there was a puzzle or two where the window for Echo to slip through in a space without getting hurt was literally pixel perfect. Like there
Mhm.
was no room on the top or bottom. So for that kind of precision needed, I sometimes went with the buttons, but I went with the joystick. So Cori, were you able to replay this game for the podcast? Have you played it in the last couple weeks?
Uh, yes. I mean, the last month or so, I've been attempting it. Um, as you were saying, with whether you use the joystick or the buttons, if it was you had more space, definitely I went with the joystick.
Yeah.
But for things like trying to pass 8 arms or going through, like in this picture, I don't know what they're called, but those little spiky things. Um,
Spikes.
when the spikes were right next to the rocks and you literally had one little row, for the precision moves I definitely used the buttons because there was too much play. The joystick gave you the northwest, northeast directions, and when you needed the up, down, left, right only, the joystick just got in the way of that. And so it depends what you needed for the gameplay of this.
Yeah, I kind of wonder on this one if I would have preferred some of this a little bit better, because I think the Genesis was 8 directions, right?
An 8 directional D-pad, yes.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder if I would have preferred that where it was clear which direction I was hitting, but that I had those intermediate ones and not just up, down, left, right.
Yeah, I mean they do make a Genesis controller for the Switch if you ever, want to really go for it. Maybe that'll be next Christmas, Mike. I don't know. But so I think part of this game's problems is that it's misunderstood. I don't think it's an adventure game or even a side-scrolling game. I think it's a puzzle game because
Mhm.
so much of the gameplay is you charting a path deeper and deeper underwater, avoiding the many obstacles and enemies in your way while also finding pockets of air to avoid drowning. So you kind of need to know what's coming and remember what's coming to make it through the obstacles and through the enemies and get the pocket of air because the margin for error is very, very small.
Mhm.
Echo needs air like real dolphins need air. So,
Yeah.
and I thought that was kind of a unique gameplay mechanic. I felt suffocating and I felt claustrophobic at times because Echo is so vulnerable. And I think I think it
Yeah.
endears you to him because he seems like he's this cute little dolphin and everything else is so scary and menacing and it's so easy for him to die that inherently I felt protective.
That was one of the one things I absolutely loved about this game was how close the developers made it to making Echo seem real. I thought it was brilliant that the way he took damage was from actual animals that he could have taken damage from in the ocean. And the way he had to survive was he had to breathe air because he's a mammal. So many people think that dolphins are fish and they can continuously breathe underwater, and they don't realize that they are mammals. They have to breathe air. And I loved that about how this game was played, because it was as if he was a real dolphin. And being so young when I first got this game, what year did this come out?
92, I believe. Let me check my notes. Yes, 92.
92. I think I was 11 when this came out, 10 or 11, something like that. I was enamored by dolphins, and my world was dolphins. And the fact that I got to play a game as if I was a dolphin with real things that dolphins do, it was amazing. I loved that aspect of it. I didn't care that I didn't get very far in the game. I just loved playing it.
The one thing with the drowning is that I felt like the game didn't really clue you in when you were drowning as easily as I would have liked.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is a thing that I'm saying. I miss the way that, like, Sonic, when you were about to drown, you knew.
Like the music getting faster.
Yeah, like the audio cue of like, uh-oh, I gotta come up with a solution here. Whereas this, it would be, I wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
And it would just be like, oh, well, I've realized this well too late into drowning to do anything. Well,
yeah, it was so different from things like the side-scrolling Super Mario Brothers, where if you just stood there, nothing happened.
Yeah.
This game, you have to keep going. You cannot just stop and go to the bathroom in the middle of playing a level because you're going to drown. Like,
I mean, you could
you
pause
just had
it.
to keep going. Yes, I guess you could. I never really.
You were super into it. You hit that
I was
pause
super
button.
into it.
It was
but
too
like,
real.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like you could, but like, you couldn't just stand around.
Yeah.
You had to remember you have to feed him. It was like a pet. You had to feed him, and you had to make sure he had air. While you were playing and trying to do all of this solving of the puzzles and getting through the maze with whatever challenges that came up.
I feel like it's an old movie trope that's like the pets. You never want the pet to get hurt, and this is like the game of like if you played the pet in the survival movie.
Yeah.
With eating, there was a bit that I was a bit frustrated that Echo can eat like the fish that are just around that aren't a threat and just kind of happen to be there. But there was like a whole lot of jellyfish here, and I have dealt with way too many ads about how like we have to avoid using plastic bags because they'll get into the ocean and dolphins will eat them, or no balloons because they'll get in the ocean, dolphins will eat them because they think they're jellyfish. And then there's jellyfish everywhere that I can't eat.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on that one, actually, because I think it would have been an interesting mechanic if the jellyfish could hurt you, but when you killed one, it healed you. Like that would feel like the perfect compromise, right?
Yeah. It's like, I accept that they can cause me damage, but like...
Eating jellyfish is what dolphins do.
Yeah.
I get you.
I think it might have been more accurate if, like, depending which angle you came at it, like if you got it from the top at the bell, it was food, but if you got it from the bottom and the stingers, you would take damage. That I think that would have been more accurate, but I think the developers maybe just had to make a choice at that point.
I sure hope someone got fired for that blunder. Mike, I'll have you know something. You taught me that reference in this podcast, and I was watching Simpsons like, wait a minute, Mike. Oh, that was a reference. Speaking of accurate, let me just show you how inaccurate this gets. I mean, you know what? Who's to say? Who knows how the universe started, you guys, really? But this game has a really bonkers science fiction story involving an invisible alien species called the Vortex, which lost the ability to produce its own food on its home planet. So to ward off extinction, they traveled to Earth every 500 years to harvest its oceans, leading them into conflict with the technologically advanced kingdom of Atlantis. In the struggle, the Vortex activated a super weapon, which sunk the city biology under the ocean. Ecco the Dolphin learns this by communing with the asterite, a sentient DNA strand that is said to be the oldest living creature on Earth. And upon its advice, Ecco seeks out the Atlantean time machine to travel back to the age of the dinosaurs to retrieve an ancient power needed to dismember the aliens and save his pod. Cori, look at this final boss. I mean, you said you didn't know about the aliens. This thing is nightmarish.
Dinosaurs in this game?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember being bummed as a kid. It's only pteranodons.
Okay.
But then you also see like the what's it called? Trilobites, Mike? Those ancient
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
flat sort of Pokemon looking thing. Or I guess Pokemon look like them actually. But yeah, so the pteranodons, that's a cool mechanic because you have to learn the song of the dinosaurs, jump out of the water and do your echolocation, and he'll come snatch you up and take you to another part of the level.
Awesome.
Pretty rad. Awesome,
Awesome.
right? Like,
I wanna pass level 5 now.
right? And this final boss fight, so the smaller drone aliens are swarming around the queen. You have to use the sonar to pop her eyeballs. Then once her eyeballs are popped, you have to ram her jaw until her jaw dismembers, and then you have to ram up into her cranial cavity to kill her brain and defeat the aliens. It's real gory, and it's actually also a great final boss because this is the only spot in the game where you have a death screen. Everywhere else in the game, the moment you die, you restart. Echo doesn't scream. It's like a split second, like, oh, I screwed up. And sometimes you get squished by falling rocks and you're like, heck, what even happened with that one? But this one, when the alien gets you in her jaws and she chomps down, Echo screams and the screen slowly goes red, almost as if the water is becoming filled with blood.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Right? And I was just like, ooh, it's chilling. It's pretty difficult, but it's one of my favorite final boss fights.
So, Cori, you're an expert. Is that how dolphins actually would kill an alien?
Sure.
With the eyes and jaw? Okay.
Well, see here, I look at this picture right now and I'm thinking party pinata. That the little alien on the side is using the
that's
dolphin
funny.
as a bat.
Yeah, my screenshot.
I love that.
It's sort of sprites lined up kind of accidentally.
The only time I've ever heard like the news do one of those like coming up at the end of the hour stories as a successful tease was a guy who'd been arrested for using an alligator as a weapon. And
was it for a pinata?
Well, the initial thought is just like, how the heck do you use an alligator as a weapon in what I think was Alabama? And it's just like, how was this involved in a case that the police needed to get involved in? And like, you figured it's like, well, the thing has like teeth.
Yeah.
No, they were having an argument. He reached into the bathtub, grabbed an alligator and swung it.
Wow.
And you're just like, how do you end up at that stage of your life?
Yeah. But also, we all wish we saw a video of it.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's wild. Any other joy pros to say about the game? We covered how it looks good.
I love that you just said joy prawns.
Yeah. You know what? It's the underwater episode. We're going joy prawns.
It's thematic.
Before we get to the joy conch Mike, any other thing to say in praise of the game?
I can't believe you came up with that fast. Well done.
I'm proud of myself. Thank you.
I actually gonna say one thing that we haven't addressed with this that I think actually deserves a lot of credit is its music, which I was told this and I haven't verified it. So this may be me having been misled. I was told that like you can get this music on vinyl like in the present day.
I believe that's right. I think I saw that on the internet. Is that something you're considering now?
I'm not entirely considering it, but I was told by someone, like, yeah, I picked up this on vinyl recently. Like, wait, what? And it's like, yeah, you can do that. It's like, I did not realize that level of hipster existed, that you can get Ecco the Dolphin music on vinyl in 2024.
It's especially special though because Sega is not a system remembered for its music. It actually had a drastically inferior soundboard compared to the Super Nintendo. So when a Sega soundtrack is as good as this one is, I think it's really worth celebrating. And part of that bad soundboard is that they just had a smaller range of sounds they could essentially make. And as far as the sounds getting layered, it wasn't as sophisticated. So it was much harder to really emulate what actual instruments sounded like. But yeah, I love the music in this game.
Yeah, no, makes us at least somewhat. If I had to listen to, I don't know, say Xevious music while trying to redo levels,
yeah,
I would have had a broken TV screen. Like this would have pushed me over an edge. So at least the music is good at least.
I think the fact that it looks so good and sounds so good, it gets a lot of leeway for being so crazy difficult. And so if I can segue into our Joy Conchas here, the game is punishingly difficult, but it's by design. The lead developer said he didn't want people to be able to beat it if they were just renting it. So he had to make a game that was over 48 hours worth of difficult. And it feels unfair. I think the air pockets are too far and few and in between. And the developers agreed because when they ported it to Japan, they added more air pockets. Which is why it's funny. You can you can see how they would have done it because some of the air pockets, I don't know if you guys noticed this, there's not even like a visual spot. You just see, oh, there's a bubble on the map. And if I just shove my beak into that corner of the game, Echo gets air. And it's like, okay, we weren't even, being consistent with how this works.
Wait, as in like you can't, when you're on the regular game map, you can't see where those are, or?
No, the regular game app will show you where it is, but in a lot of situations, Echo will actually poke his nose up into the air, or you can jump out of the water for a second. But this is just like visually, you would never know there's an air pocket here unless you looked at the map.
Okay.
So were there other air pockets besides the ones you could actually see?
Yes, there were invisible air pockets.
No.
So one of the mechanics in the game, and that's probably why you guys were having such a hard time, is that you have to use so when Echo shoots off his echolocation,
Right.
you hold it down, it gives you, in fact, I have a picture of it, a map of the level.
Right.
And so like if you guys see over here on the right-hand side of the screen, these 4 air bubbles, there's nothing to indicate that this is a spot to get air unless you're looking at the map. Because in the game, it will just look like a watery corridor with no air at all. It's super annoying, Cori.
Okay.
It makes the game beatable.
I was trying to figure out where the air was.
Right.
There were
you
so
probably
many
got
times where I got the map up. I went, oh, there's a bubble, and I'd swim towards it. And I'm like, where's the place you're supposed to jump out of? I never found that.
You gotta like hug the rocks.
Well, I know that like you could do the echolocation sound at the clam to get your energy back.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, maybe that's what they were talking about, that it would refill your air as well. But that, because it would bloop up it would release little air bubbles at that. So I thought that was what it was. So I kept trying to like swim at those bubbles to breathe, and it wouldn't do anything. I didn't know there was like I got to go look now. I have to go look.
It's and it's also obnoxious too because like, and we're gonna get into how opaque the game is, but I think the clam is a perfect metaphor because visually you see little air bubbles, you go, oh, suck that up, Sonic the Hedgehog style, give me more air. No, those bubbles are for food. Those bubbles you're eating, and it's like, what?
Yeah,
I think it's because bottlenose dolphins, I think they do open up clams and eat what's inside, right? Isn't that a thing they do?
That I don't know. I know they use their.
I'm thinking of otters.
I know that, definitely otters, but I know that they use their echolocation to find food in sand. So if they're swimming along, and for things like whatever, like the flounder fish that cover themselves in the sand, they'll go over it and do the echolocation on it and be able to see where it would just look like an ocean floor.
Yeah.
And dig up the fish.
There's a bit on level 5 where I noticed my air went back up where I wasn't. God,
yep.
Dang it!
You went through a secret air pocket.
I found one of these and I didn't know that that's a thing this game does. What the heck?
Yeah. So I mean, I think the only reason I knew this without looking it up is that when that happened, I happened to be using my map right at that moment. I was like, oh, look, there's a bubble. Right?
Yeah.
It's wild. It's really, really tough.
Yeah. Before, you were asking about things that we really liked about the game. The accuracy with how the echolocation works, and the fact that it either usually calls out, or as it comes back, it creates the map. That's so realistic to what dolphins do and how echolocation works. They see with their echolocation. So the fact that it creates a map for you, I just thought that was the coolest thing. As a kid, as a grown-up, I still think that that's the coolest thing, because that's exactly what dolphins and beluga whales and all the cetaceans that use echolocation, that's what they do.
And I'm laughing because their next game, Colibri, where you play as the hummingbird, you shoot fireballs out of your psychic power brain, and your wings create force fields.
So also like how hummingbirds work.
Exactly like how hummingbirds do. Mike, I think you had a point to make.
I was just going to ask Corey if there's other animals that she was glad to see included in here.
Oh yeah.
I was really glad to see the orca, just because I like orcas. I was really glad as an adult to see the octopus because those have become one of my favorite animals. When you were talking about the animation, I would have liked to have seen color change in the octopus,
Oh,
not
that'd be
just
cool.
brown, because they color flash in a really beautiful way and will camouflage in with whatever surroundings they have. So I think it would have been cool to have it look more like the rock and kind of be surprising, like you didn't know it was there. What else was here?
It's funny that the octopus was like a big moment for the developers because it had been visuals of it had been sent to others in the industry. And I guess in Japan, eating octopus like is quite a big thing. And
Mm.
so, other game developers were marveling at the coloring. I mean, yeah, I know you said you wanted to have color changes, but like the delicate shading from one part to the other to create the effect of
Mhm.
this light on the octopus was like
Yeah.
really groundbreaking. And the biggest compliment is that I guess one of the biggest game developers at the time said they really wanted to eat it. Like they actually felt hungry looking at it. And
Yeah.
but like at this point in gaming, we
Yeah.
weren't at
That.
a realism point.
Mhm.
So I think the game deserves some
Mhm.
credit there for actually achieving a look of realism that it had not really been done in the industry yet.
Absolutely. I think if it were made today, they could have done all those things. But back then, it was so beautiful. None of the other. I started playing some of the other games after activating the Switch, the Sega
Yeah.
games for Switch. None of them have this level of artistic quality to it.
Yeah. It's probably one of the prettiest Sega Genesis games ever.
Yeah, it's really, really well. I think it was really well made. I love it. I just think it's beautiful.
Any
Yeah.
other animals worth mentioning?
I loved how they have had different little fish to eat. So like it wasn't just one type of fish.
Yeah.
There were many, like the school of fish that you could eat. I think it was in level 4. I spent 4 hours trying to play that game, so I saw those fish a lot. There was more than just one, and they were all different and very accurate. I'm not sure what animal it was. If you guys know, the wreath of stars,
This the
what
kind of spiky one.
what was that supposed to be? Did any of you guys find out what the one where you have to like
Use your sonar to
use
push.
your sonar to push it and it dissolved the rocks? What was that supposed to be? I never.
I presumed some variety of sea star.
Isn't it urchins? Urchins are like the little spiky things. I thought it was like a bunch of small urchins, and I'm not sure.
I didn't know. I've never learned about any sea creature that creates a ring like that. I mean, there are. Oh gosh, I'm. It'll come to me. I don't know. I can't think of what it's called right now. Not sponges, but like tunicates or something like that.
You already lost me, but that's okay.
Portuguese man of war. They're the little creatures that all live together.
Okay, yeah.
I thought it might have been something like that, but they turned it into a necklace. I don't know. I wasn't sure like what they did with that, but
Or is the chance it's just a ring of spikes for solving a puzzle? You know what I mean?
could have been. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I just kind of figured it was they just went like we're just gonna make a ring of starfish and go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought if I can get back to some Joy Cons of the game,
sure.
it's kind of frustrating sometimes because there's not really any consistency of like where the exit is going to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes the exit of the level is on the right, sometimes on the left. There's even an obnoxious level where you have to jump out of the water. The exit is above the map, and the glyphs. So the primary mechanic of the game is you're making progress by finding these blue crystals. And
Mhm.
what is really, really frustrating to me is that there is a huge variety of things that these blue crystals do. Some have lore messages, so you shoot your echo location at it and it talks to you and it gives you some kind of hint about like what's happening or what happened in this area. Some of them will be just a gateway blocking you. It just gets in your way and can't you can't knock it out of the way until you find a different blue crystal. And if you touch it with your nose, it imbues you with this glyph power. So now you can get past it. And then later in the game, that gives you the Sonic the Hedgehog invincibility. You get stars flying all around you. and now you can't be hurt, and you have unlimited oxygen, and your oxygen refills. All 5 things are all visually identical in terms of the crystal. There is no way to tell what it does until you get up to it, and there's no indication on the map of which one is which. Why not just do slightly different shades of blue? The lighter blue ones give you lore, the darker blue ones, you know what I mean? Like, you just had to just do a color difference, would have really helped. So that frustrated.
Color or shape. And even that some of them you had to physically touch and others that you had to use a sonar on. And like even that inconsistency was frustrating.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I think this game kind of gave Zelda a run for its money. The first NES Zelda game was like really difficult in terms of like knowing what to do next. This game is almost Zelda levels of frustrating. And if I can just complain about one specific moment that I don't think either of you guys got to, did you get to the point where Echo has to start picking rocks up off the ocean floor?
No, but I got to the point where the twisted snail had to dissolve the rocks as it was dropping down.
Right.
And somewhere online it said you could pick it up and push it back. I could not maneuver it to do that, and I couldn't find anywhere that said how. It just said you could.
I could do that. I couldn't get to it in time to then push it over, but you could basically swim down, straight down it, and then swim back up and lift it up.
Yeah, but it's obnoxious though, because like if you guys can see me on the Zoom here, it's like if this is the rock, Echo puts his nose down, and now this doesn't work for any other sprite in the game, but for the rocks and the snails, his little nose will go past it. And now Echo's like behind the object. And you can't do that with any other object. And then when you turn back around to go up, now Echo's underneath it and it's on top of him, you know, and it's this mechanic that's required, isn't taught to you anywhere, isn't mentioned in the manual. It's just like, come on, guys. The game also heavily relies on a really old, tired retro gaming trope of the secret passage. And that's a wall that you can go through, but there's no visual indication you can go through it. All you can do is just hug walls until eventually Echo, oh, there's a way through here.
Oh.
And you need to do that to get to the asteroid boss fight, which is, it's this helix of spheres. They kill you in less than a second, and you're granted very little room to maneuver in this boss chamber. And the only way to defeat it is if you strike 4 orbs of the same color in a small window of time. And there's no way to learn that that's how it's done. You just have to look it up, buy a strategy guide, or just, I guess, by luck. It's just like, this game is mean. I like it, but it's mean.
Yeah. I found that in some of the levels, if you finally dissolved the rock, but you got past a certain point past that rock, and you decided, oh, I didn't find the glyph I needed, and you try to go back, the wall is closed.
Yes.
So I found that kind of frustrating, you know, having finally progressed to a point and then realize, oh, wait, I have to go back.
There was something really frustrating realizing the extent that there were some things that some enemies, like you kill an enemy, and if you leave the screen and come back, it's gone. And other enemies, you leave the screen and they're back.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I know that you can figure out that things have changed that are not presently on the screen because you've done it at points in this. It's one of these things where if it was always the case that as soon as you left the screen, it forgot that had happened, I could work with that.
Yeah.
But it's this inconsistency of sometimes the same enemies where I think it was the pufferfish that there was one area where I'm like, I can clear out the pufferfish from this area so that every time I come back up here, they're gone. And then I can deal with trying to get, a rock down a current nonsense. But then there were other levels where there'd be a corridor full of those suckers, and as soon as I left it, they would all respawn.
They said they were puffers. Dumb joke. You called them suckers. I said they were puffers, Mike. They were puffing, not sucking.
On that note, any dolphin relevant things to mention with the pufferfish, Cori?
Yes, actually. I found it funny as an adult because that the pufferfish were actually causing damage to the dolphins, because they have done a study where dolphins actually play with pufferfish as if they are drugs. They will get together and pass it. They will bite it, not to kill it, but just to get injected with their toxin. and then pass it to their friend as if they're getting high. And I think it's absolutely hilarious. And I kind of wish they had known that back when they were developing this game, because it's fairly new-ish information, because then he might not have taken damage, but he might have been a little off, in being able to defeat his enemies.
It's funny because I mean we get political every episode somehow, So I don't know where you stand on the legalization of drugs, but it's interesting to me that like animals in nature have drugs. They puffer pass, I guess, to one another.
Yeah, puff pass, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Anything else to criticize about the game before we go into our rankings?
I mean, like I said, I think the biggest thing is just the lack of checkpoints in large levels that Cori mentioned earlier. Like
Yeah.
It was how many times I was going through, I think like level 3 and level 4 and being like, okay, I've gotten through several different challenges. And I think some of it's like when you get into having to like rescue dolphins and stuff, like I have no idea what the level passwords are doing, because each time I would die on a level, I'd get a new password. I'm like, what information are you conveying here if I still have to redo everything?
Yeah, part of that is that there are ways to level up Echo's stats. I'm not sure if you were aware of that.
No.
But yeah, so there's optional side quests. There are dolphins that you can save, and they will give you a more powerful sonar attack so that it can kill jellyfish. So now you have a projectile weapon. There is also one that will make it so that you can shoot an even stronger one by charging and then pressing the Echo button mid-charge. So Echo rears back, but instead of jutting forward, now he's shooting a blast of sonar that can damage bosses and sharks.
I got that one, I believe.
Yeah, so I don't know if the different passwords are like noting whether or not you have the abilities, you know what I mean? That'd be my guess.
I think it was more that like just I wasn't like accomplishing anything big, and I was still getting new codes.
Right.
And it was like, if I'm on one of these levels where I've got to go find 3 dolphins in 3 totally different spots,
right.
If I have found one, that code should be, oh, that dolphin has already been recovered. Resume with 1 or 2 done.
But there's just no checkpoint system.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, like even if you just go, okay, you've already found the dolphins, now you just have to get out of this thing. And I think that's part of what pushed me over the edge to where I finally gave up was on level 5, I'd finally gotten through. So I'm like, I can't believe I finally got through this. And I think level 5 was the one that had an animal that I do not know what the heck it was that was coming out of the rocks.
Oh, the tentacle thing?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was...
What was that?
I wasn't sure if it was a tentacle or if it was an eel or what. But where I'd get grabbed by that, and then I would just get to watch Echo slowly die.
Did you not know how to escape those?
I could not figure out how to escape those.
You have to pound the button to flap your back fins, I guess, to pick up speed. And then once you've pounded it and you're going as fast as possible, hold it down. That'll keep Echo at that speed, and eventually you'll break away. You have to develop the momentum to break out of its grip.
Aha.
Yeah, I was able to get out of that, but I never knew how I got out of it, because it seemed like sometimes I was stuck more than other times. Like sometimes it barely touched me and I kind of got stuck, but then other times I was completely enveloped in that arm-ish thing.
I tried enough that by the end of it, I just kind of had given up. And so I think I suspect I was on my way towards the end of the level.
Yeah. And you're like, I'm done with this.
Yep. Yeah, because one of those grabbed me and it was just like, I can't get loose. And like, all right, I'm just going to watch this dolphin slowly die. Just wait until it drowns because I can't get out of this, and then call it a day.
Yeah.
Well, so we talked about 8 Arms as tentacle actually being a series of separate sprites. So I believe those little tentacle sticky things that grabs Echo, each one that touches him is now adding resistance that has to be overcome. So if you get pulled all the way down, I don't think you can break free. You have to break free before it wraps around you, which feels accurate. It feels like a real animal thing.
Yeah. My frustration with the game was the inconsistency between level to level. In most other games that I've played, you kind of know what to expect going into each level. And each level builds on its difficulty as you go on. So you learn one skill in one level and you can use that in the next level and proceed, and you kind of get better and better at playing. This game, one level's easy, one level's really hard, but they're all hard in different ways.
Yeah.
And while I was playing it, I was very frustrated, like you were saying. Sometimes the exit is up, sometimes it's in the middle, sometimes it's on the left, sometimes it's on the right. Sometimes I never could figure out what the objective was. Like they had, if you talk to a dolphin that was down there, I thought, oh, we're looking for Echo's pod. Yay, I found a pod member. It says swim slowly in front of me and I will follow you. Why? What was the purpose of that? You didn't need that to pass the level. So why was I wasting my time getting it to do this skill? Is that a skill later that's going to be learned?
Yeah.
Is that a necessary thing you have to practice so that you can do that in the future levels?
Well, and I think that is when you get all three of them, then you unlock one of the extra skills. It's just not clear
Yeah, the stronger sonar attack.
that that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and also, this game is already difficult. So, if you don't get that pickup, it borderline impossible. So it kind of would have been kinder to, I don't know, inform the player a bit better. It's also interesting you say it's hard in different ways, because one of the things I liked about the game is as you get further on, levels feel very different in terms of challenge. One of the more memorable levels is called Open Ocean. There is no level architecture. There's no rocks, there's no pathways. It's just open ocean and hundreds of sharks. And your whole thing is now navigate up and down, attacking and, avoiding until you get to the far right side of the screen. The game becomes a bullet hell shooter towards the end when Echo does not need air anymore. Now he's going up towards the screen as it scrolls past him, using his echolocation to blast aliens. And then the alien ship, when you actually get in the alien ship, now the game is auto scrolling. Like, so the camera is moving independent of Echo, and he has to keep up with it. No, it's very stressful, but it's like, okay, this feels menacing. This feels alien. This feels unnatural. Everything in this game feels very natural. And you get to these weird aliens, and now it's technological, and it's like, ooh, science versus nature. I kind of love it for that reason.
That one's the machine. That level's the machine, right?
It's called the level is called Welcome to the Machine,
Welcome to the Machine.
in homage to Pink Floyd. Yeah, it's probably the most infamous Echo the Dolphin level. I had a picture of it. This is one that most people say just cannot be beaten without cheating.
Honestly, I'm going to contend. I feel like the most infamous level to this is the first freaking level, because there's such a skill gate involved in this game where I'm like, I am sure if you made it that far, that's rough, but not getting close.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to say before we rank these games?
Oh, game.
Well, this
Yes.
game, singular. And actually, so before we get to it, Cori, I had a dolphin trivia that I wanted to. So I originally had this. I like to do little mini games, and I was gonna do a mini game minute because I thought we actually were at the point where we could understand dolphins. So I was gonna play you dolphin sounds and make you guess what they were saying.
I haven't decoded it yet.
Yes, but I did find out though that there was a program that was built exactly for that, translating dolphin noises into words, and they have successfully translated one word. I was wondering, since you're interested in the field, if you knew what that one word was.
Who did that? I'm curious, because I when was that?
This article is from 2014, and I saw it posted on a number of different sites. Researcher Denise Herzing claims that she has a translator that translated dolphin sounds into the word sargassum. Do you know what that is? It's seaweed.
I think I know. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I did hear about that. I did.
Yeah.
Because that's the famous Sargasso Sea.
What?
The Sargasso Sea is an area in the Atlantic.
Okay.
This kind of gets wrapped into like Bermuda Triangle stuff. So you have an area of the Atlantic that is sort of between trade winds and stuff. The water is calmer and everything, and you have huge amounts of seaweed. And there are stories ships where basically if the winds died, you just kind of got stuck there for a long stretch.
Scary.
Yeah, it's a fascinating little bit to look into, and because of its region, I think some of it edges into Bermuda Triangle disappearances and stuff for older ships that were much more air dependent.
Yeah. So that's how you know the word sargassum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, what else? The other thing we know is how we feel about this game. So we're gonna rank it a Nintendo or a NintenDO'N't. Corey, as you're our guest, if you had to say whether or not this game was worth people's time, what would your final verdict be?
Oh, it's a toss up.
Yeah.
As a kid, definitely a Nintendo.
Okay.
As an adult, I don't quite have as much patience as I did as a child.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a NintenDO'N't, but it's more NintenDO'N't than Nintendo.
And I think that makes it mathematically a NintenDO'N't.
No, I think I think if you like a challenge, it's a Nintendo. I
Okay.
would go. I think people should play it and try it, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And you also do have the knowledge now that you can save that from the Switch, you can actually fix some of these problems.
That now I know that now.
Yes.
So
Yeah, this same thing happened when we first started this podcast. We were recording our very first episode. Mike didn't know that if you hold down the two big trigger buttons, you can rewind at any point. So every time Echo makes a mistake, rewind and try again. And if you tap them both, you can save the game anywhere. So yeah, it does not do a good job of explaining that to you when you first start using the program. So that's another thing Nintendo can
yeah.
work on. I want to go next, if that's okay with you, Mike.
Go for it.
I think it's really unfortunate that this game is locked behind the more expensive Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. You got to pay extra to get the Sega Genesis and N64 games. Because for all that this game does poorly, and I think we've been pretty clear on that today, it really sticks in my mind. I looked forward to booting it back up, even though I knew that frustration and bewilderment was going to follow. I've always said that I prefer an ambitious mess over a predictable success. And I think this game is the very embodiment of that belief. It's gorgeous, it's strange, it's somber, it's inspiring, it's a little scary, it's controller smashingly difficult. I have no idea how anyone came close to beating this game back in the 90s, but with the ability to rewind, the instant save states, I think that Nintendo Switch Online might be one of the more ideal ways to approach the game. So I agree with Corey. Boot it up for the novelty of it. And if you're a glutton for punishment, if you have a soft spot for weirdness, you might be compelled like I did to play it all the way through to the end. So it's a reluctant Nintendo, but it's a Nintendo nonetheless. Maybe buy it on Steam because it's literally $1. And I think for $1, I think it's well worth your 99 cents. So it's a Nintendo for me as well. Mike, I think you're gonna go another direction. What's your ranking?
Yeah, I'm going to say, like, and this is all sort of a shame because the fact that this throws in a surprise aliens element that I didn't know existed, even though I've known about this game for
Yeah.
decades,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's such a well kept secret, and it's such a well kept secret because of the gameplay.
Right.
Like, kudos for not advertising that.
Yes.
But also, no one was going to tell me about this because I don't think I know anyone that's ever beaten this game until now.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's as much as it looks good, as much as it sounds good, I can hear it and see it if I go watch a speed run and then I get to the aliens in about 15 minutes or 10 minutes instead of 5 hours of never getting there. So for me, it's a NintenDO'N't,
All right.
but worth watching a speed run of to just see what's in there.
So I think we're gonna call that game over for today. The final scores are 1 NintenDO'N't and 2 reluctant Nintendos. That's right, Corey?
Yeah.
So I think we have ruled in favor of Echo the Dolphin. I was really worried that I was going to be outnumbered on this one. So Corey, I'm glad you're here because this guy's dead inside. He's going to watch the speed run. You got to get behind the controls, Mike. Well, Corey, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so dull fun talking to you today.
Oh wow!
I was sitting on that one this whole time.
That was punny. That
The
was
worst
punny,
part is
man.
I thought that sounds like a dull fun
dull
too.
fun. Don't go there, Mike. Don't put words in my beak, my bottlenose beak here. I really appreciate you coming on. Well, everyone, I want you to join us next time when Mike and I will once again be zooming in on the Nintendo Switch Online catalog in our epic quest to research and review them all. Next on the beloved Pocket Monster spinoff Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo 64 with special guest Derek from the Underrated Movie Podcast. Mike co-hosted one of their episodes. Bad Times at the El Royale, I think was your episode.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you love that movie or if you hate that movie or if you don't know what it is like me, go check out the Underrated Movie Podcast. Listen to the Bad Times at the El Royale episode and hear our lovely Mike giving his hot takes on it. And everyone, don't forget to visit us at www.theoldswitcheroo.com. There you can find links to our Spotify, our Discord, our YouTube, TikTok, and all the social medias you can shake a joystick at. You can even leave an old-timey voicemail, meaning we would literally love to hear from you. Please like, comment, subscribe, and review. As always, thanks for listening to The Old Switcheroo. We've been talking gaming retro with Cori, Mike, and Jaymo.
I've been Mike.
And I've been Jaymo. Game on, everyone.